Yes, it's Game Informer number 358. Sonic. Armpits. Superstar. Yeah, let's get it. Old covers. Single issues of the print magazine are now available. Find yours at GameStop. But for some reason, they don't give them to us with the monthly membership anymore. Weird, ain't it? Kind of weird static going on. What's that about? And whatever. And let me figure this out. Okay. Right. So we have cover story Sonic Superstars. Page 28. 10. Full circle. The musical with millions of endings. Alright. Handhelds and hybrids. I haven't seen a ton of mention of the Steam Deck in your pages, at least since it first came out, probably because it's not a full-fledged console so much as portable PC, but wanted to give a special shout out to, having now owned mine for over a year. I'm married with a 2-year-old daughter living in a 1,100 square foot condo. We have one TV, which we don't turn on while she's awake, and absolutely no room for a gaming PC. My office is in our couch, or the rare instances I'm forced to work from home. I don't want to monopolize the TV after our daughter goes to bed with hours of console gaming, especially when my wife wants to watch something. Enter Steam Deck. Good for you, Playboy. Cool. Zelda, Link or somebody. And industry in decline. Is it just me, or has the quality of games over the past decade gone downhill? Yeah, people quick to make videos about that, but really when you think about it, it's better than ever. Don't get me wrong, we have had some truly amazing games recently and over the past few years, but it seems like ever since the Xbox One and PS4 came out, we've had more bad games than good ones. But to get 1 million games now, you're just talking about the top of the line games. Bungie left the scene in 343 takeover. None of the new Halo games have been close to as good as Halo Reach or Halo 3. Another example would be the Call of Duty franchise. These are boardroom market games. Now, look, we have crappy remasters and even worse sequels that are turning longtime fans off. My final example would be Forza Horizon 5. It had the largest player base for a game launch in Xbox history, and shortly after launch, the player base went way down, and now only a small percentage of people left still play the game. I don't even need to talk about the disasters that were Redfall and The Last of Us for PC, because I'm sure you are aware of those major trash heaps. So my question is this: why is almost every new game never as good as the older games, despite our major technological advancements? People used to say this about hip-hop all the time. It's like people just look at the past with rose-colored glasses. Everybody wasn't Biggie, and everybody wasn't Mobb Deep. You always had trash acts, or like acts that weren't the greatest ever. People always act like everything has to be the greatest ever. Like there's no middle ground, there's no subpar, never back in the past. Stupid people. It certainly isn't just you in thinking that way, but we'd also argue that this line of thinking focuses too much on the negatives of today, and while looking at yesteryear through rose-tinted glasses. Of course, there have been some bad and underwhelming games that have hit the market in recent years. It's safe to say that many were disappointed by Redfall, as you pointed out. Plenty of people love Redfall too. It's also clear that some of the best games of various franchises you mentioned, Halo and Call of Duty, came out more than a decade ago. But that's not the full picture of the industry. 10 years ago, you had people sharing this exact same sentiment, but framed around 2003 instead of 2013. Meanwhile, look at all the incredible experiences we've received in the last 5 years. 2023 alone is shaping up to be a downright incredible year for games. Even when you factor in bad games that we also arrived this year, it's also easy to look into the past and think of it as the good old days, but it's also entirely possible that one day you'll look back at today in that same way. Yeah, people just arguing for the sake of argument. Zelda Link, Bioshock, Last Ronin. Cool Link right there with arrows. This guy Colin, he's trying to get back in the league. Sit down, Colin, and take a knee. The state of gaming in Nigeria. Inside the trials of building thriving local industry. Yeah, Nigeria, boy. It looks very modern out there. Nigeria has a staggering population of over 200 million people. About 70% of that number is under the age of 30. As the largest economy in Africa, it's no wonder many industries have recorded significant growth in the last 2 decades, and the gaming industry is one of those beneficiaries. While still on the rise, gaming culture in Nigeria has been greatly propelled thanks to easier access to smartphones, tablets, laptops, and of course the internet. Before these technological advancements, however, gaming was only available to the middle and upper class through communal endeavors, the latter spurring the rise of gaming centers nationwide in the 2000s and 2010s. Nigeria's relationship with gaming has had ups and downs. While the aforementioned gaming centers offered many the chance to live out the fantasies of Lionel Messi in the latest FIFA and Pro Evolution Soccer, or battle against the guys as Kratos in God of War, it's become difficult to maintain many of these venues because of Nigeria's failing currency, the naira. Professional gamer Mr. Phillips, who asked us to not print his real name as he games anonymously, earns money competing in online tournaments around the world. He believes while the gaming industry in Nigeria is on a fast rise, it's still yet to thrive and continues to rely heavily on individual and not group or communal interest. In the wake of the gaming competitions across the country, lack of sponsorships are now the order of the day, and professional gamers are more willing to engage in foreign tournaments over the internet than in-person contests. Phillips insists that the disappointing number of Nigerians on platforms like Twitch and Discord also contributes to the lack of communal gaming endeavors. I would go as far as to saying that the industry is still in its infancy in terms of becoming a widespread phenomenon in Nigeria. Philip says, competitions receive very little publicity, and I know of a couple of contest winners that have yet to be paid for their winnings. This is often due to disappointing numbers of people registering and paying to enter many of these contests. You'll hardly find a horde of Nigerians on Twitch and Discord. So uniting with fellow gamers in the country is quite difficult. YouTube is the primary option for gaming content, and with many more streamers and gamers heading toward other platforms, building a community is no easy feat. Africa's role in promoting gaming culture in Nigeria. Gamer Africa is the #1 landing place for gaming experience in Nigeria. The company has successfully provided players with the tools to excel in Africa's rising esports industry. So far, Gamer has welcomed over 210,000 new and experienced players, offering an interactive platform for them to grow and thrive while aiming for huge breaks to the global scene. Online gaming in Nigeria has its challenges. Restrictions on foreign transactions sometimes mean gamers can't engage in online tournaments, leaving many with free-to-play games or downloadable content only. Ayomide Orio is a Nigerian leisure gamer who has difficulty purchasing video games online. Thanks to Nigeria's newly introduced law that no foreign transactions can be conducted with the Nigerian naira, it was a long and tiresome process before he could acquire an ATM card strictly for foreign currency. And while he missed out on several online tournaments, he's just now getting back into the groove of online gaming. Crazy. Yeah, like I hear like in a lot of countries, like, you know, you've only got like electricity part of the day and such. Gotta suck, man. Mainstream and niche gaming in Nigeria. Sony and Nintendo have always had the greatest command of Nigerian customers, while Microsoft lagged behind. While popular In its own right, the Xbox usually appeals to financially successful gamers who can afford solo games rather than passing around the game disc among friends and colleagues. The PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 proved exceptionally popular in the country, but as the Naira crashed terribly against the dollar, the PS4 and 5 failed to find a market among the masses. Today, the PS3 is still commonly found in many households, mainly because a horde of games were still being released before the final game shakedown. In Hawaii was released in 2020. The accessibility of these games, even in 2023, has led to the contentment of many customers who chose to stick with the PS3 until further notice. Yeah, I never had a PS3. Yeah, I had like hardly ever really had a PS3, and never had a 4 or 5. All right, but last paragraph. Nigerians are a major player in Africa's journey to becoming a respected identity in the world's massive gaming stratosphere, but a lot more must be done for the people to feel proud of their love for gaming, especially outside of leisure. With bodies like Gamer Africa working closely with the Nigerians to boost the esports industry, the market for gamers will surely widen in the coming years. Right? Experiences, not obligations. Don't make me set recurring reminders for playing video games. It is admittedly unfair of me, but anytime a video game reveals itself as free to play, my interest immediately dissipates. Free to play games are not universally bad. Plenty of brilliant design ideas, engaging stories, and fun gaming mechanics can be found in games with no upfront admission fee. But once a game's goals shift from singular experience to long-term engagement, any excitement I may have folds in on itself and disappears like Pac-Man. Last paragraph. For me, however, I don't want required reading, and I don't want to feel like I'm missing out on temporary events and licensed character skins just because I played a different video game. I don't want to commit to anything that demands I set a calendar reminder to play. And that's the way that TV used to be, and there's a reason it's nearly extinct. In the time I have set aside for entertainment and video games, I want experiences from creators with specific ideas that conclude. I'm more than happy to pay for those, even at a high price point exactly once. The only obligation I want is the recurring memory of how much I enjoyed that experience. Full circle. John Johannes' twisting journey to becoming the director of Hi-Fi Rush. The hardest part of being a director is getting out of the car in the morning. John Johannes says, not literally. He takes a train to work every day, but it requires turning a switch in his brain. Naturally, he's an introvert, but when he goes to work, he has to be an extrovert. He has to lead teams, micromanage, make tough decisions, and accept making mistakes. All skills he learned without clear guidance. Bottomless pit. Right after college, Johannes started teaching English as part of the JET program, a government program built to teach foreign languages in Japan and a common way for people to get working visas to move to the country. Johannes landed in Ibukari in the mountains north of Tokyo. That was a small town. The only thing open past 8 p.m. was a gym that closed at 10 p.m. He came to Japan with no game plan other than he'd figure his life out once he got there, and he decided he'd spend 2 years working for JET and outside of work, buckle down on continuing to learn Japanese. Okay, head down. Johannes was hired as a level designer. Of course, he had no experience, and there wasn't anyone sitting him down and showing him the ropes, as he puts it. There was no Tango educational program, so he got to work teaching himself parts of the job. Tango Gameworks. In March 2010, Shinji Mikami, the creator of the Resident Evil series, announced that he was starting a new studio in Tokyo. And after about 2 decades as the companies such as Capcom and Platinum Gates. He called the studio Tango Gameworks. Weirdly enough, Tango's recruitment page, according to Johannes, listed no actual game development credentials, and he got the job. Early in Tango's history, ZeniMax, the owner of Bethesda Software, acquired it. The studio made The Evil Within using ID Tech 5, ID Software Ware's internal engine that was used for the 2011 game Rage. Love that game. Tango had access to Rage's in-game assets, and that allowed Johannes to experiment with level design, and he made simple stuff like trying to make doors open or the OG Doom levels using Rage's assets. We Never Sleep. Johannes was the director of The Evil Within 2, and he didn't have a choice. He was told that he was doing it, and it was daunting. Worrying. In his D.W. Griffith Award speech, Kubrick went on to talk about the joys of filmmaking. He said, anyone who has ever been privileged to direct a film also knows that although it can be like trying to write War and Peace in a bumper car in an amusement park, when you finally get it right, there are not many joys in life that can equal the feeling. Johannes is finally starting to feel confident as a director. Not entirely. He says no one ever fully confident, but he's getting better. Last 3 paragraphs. For now, being a director still feels right, and maybe no other joys can equal that feeling for him. When we wrap the interview, although it's long in the night, Johannes says he's going to the office to work. It's still a new day after all, and he has to get out of the car. Brought it back to the beginning. A twisted reinvention. How Peacock's Twisted Metal renewed my love of the franchise. This is going to be fun, exclaimed Sweet Tooth as he lobs his machete towards Anthony Mackie's John Doe, who narrowly dodges the weapon as it careens into a casino slot machine. I'm not sure I agree with the iconic murder clown. I'm watching the first teaser for Peacock's Twisted Metal, and while I wasn't sure what to expect from the adaptation of one of my favorite childhood franchises, whatever hopes I had fell away watching this strange and out of context clip. Sweet Tooth's dancing to and singing the lyrics to Sisqo's thong song, showing a comedic fist fight instead of vehicles blowing up each other. I know the showrunners are aiming for laughs, but what have they done to my game? After watching the show's first season, I must confess I really like Twisted Metal. Before Joel and Ellie, Kratos, Nathan Drake, and even Crash Bandicoot were faces of PlayStation, there was Twisted Metal. The franchise popularized the now dormant car combat genre thanks to its wildly fun gameplay. Destruction Derby. How many sequels did that one get? Probably 3 max, I would say. But wildly fun gameplay, dark humor, and a diminutive cast of characters, notably the mascot, Sweet Tooth. The chaotic action carried players through numerous entries from its highest highs, Twisted Metal 2, and Twisted Metal Black, to its lowest lows, Twisted Metal 3 and 4. Despite its success, the series has been hibernating since its enjoyable but forgettable 2012 reboot. Hope for a revival unexpectedly arose when Peacock announced a 10-episode live-action adaptation helmed by Cobra Kai scribe Michael Jonathan Smith, along with Deadpool writers Rhett Smith and Paul Wernick. Twisted Metal stars John Doe, an amnesiac delivery driver dubbed the Milkman. In a post-apocalyptic U.S. at the dawn of the 21st century, a calamity caused society to collapse. Now, 20 years later, remnants of humanity have huddled in walled cities across the now divided states of America. Those living outside these shelters fight daily for survival on the lawless open roads, which numerous gang factions and deranged personalities dominate. Yeah. Last paragraph. Twisted Metal doesn't feature nearly as much car combat as I expected. Most vehicular skirmishes wrap up within a few minutes, and much of the prolonged action is on foot. Without spoiling the plot, eventually rewards fans with what they're looking for, with a satisfying finale that leaves enough doors open to lure viewers back for a potential second season. The best compliment I can give is that I hope a second season happens. While I was uneasy, I had a blast once I settled with the show's groove and the plot hit the gas. Like the games, Twisted Metal is undeniably stupid and gratuitously violent, but it swings for the fences and hits home runs more often than not. Yep, we got the new Cap, Falcon, and Sweet Tooth. And is that your boy? I think that's your boy Hellboy, maybe. All right, gaming toys for all. Star Wars The Black Series, Cal Kestis, $25. Super Mario movie figure playsets, 30, 20, and 20. Pop Overwatch 2 Jumbo Echo, I guess Overwatch. Lego Sonic Green Hill Zone Loop Challenge, $100. That looks cool. Lego. Alright, and Appreciating the Classics by Brian Shea. We sped over never-before-seen zones to learn more about Sonic Superstars and the franchise's return to its 2D roots. It's always returning to its 2D roots. What are you talking about? This time last year, Sonic the Hedgehog as a brand was thriving, thanks to successful live-action films, a popular comic series, and a litany of brand deals. Sega's blue mascot was once again a juggernaut in the mainstream consciousness. All that was missing was a hit in the medium that put Sonic on the map in the first place, and one of gaming's greatest comeback stories would be complete. In 2017, we received Sonic Mania, a retro-facing 2D side-scrolling game that delivered unique takes on classic stages while implementing novel gimmicks and a few all-new zones. I still have not got past level 2 on Sonic Mania. Went all out the way to get it. The release was a hit, serving as one of the best reviewed Sonic the Hedgehog video games of all time, and one that many point to as the best 2D platform the franchise has ever seen. Though Sonic Mania was created by a team of external developers, the Sonic franchise nonetheless had its first bona fide hit in years. Sonic is known for carrying forward momentum, but when the success of Sonic Mania juxtaposed against the Sonic team developed Sonic Forces, which came out mere months later, it painted a discouraging picture. Contrasted with Sonic Mania, which received near universal acclaim with a review average of 86 on aggregate website Metacritic, Sonic Forces fell flat, receiving a score of 57. And just like that, the franchise's forward movement came to a screeching halt. Coming back to summer of 2022, Sonic Team was once again gearing up to launch a AAA modern Sonic game, but fans were hesitant after getting their hopes up with Sonic Forces and other recent entries that fell short of expectations. Sonic Frontiers didn't make a great first impression, with early footage doing little to impress, and the fan base was quick to criticize and write it off as another disappointment from the Sonic team. But then the tide started to turn. Slowly, the footage began looking better. The media impressions, including our own, as part of the cover story issue on issue 347, I did that one like last year, became more and more positive in the lead up to the launch, while the final product, which arrived last November, didn't ascend to the heights of Sonic Mania. It did earn a respectable 71 on Metacritic and became the best-selling 3D Sonic game ever. Man, Metacritic, I haven't used Metacritic in a while. I need to get back on Metacritic. Sonic Team finally had its long-awaited hit, and for the first time in years, fans had a shared sense of optimism for the future. However, while classic Sonic appeared in Sonic Generations, Sonic Forces, and spin-off entries, outside of Mania, the classic branch of the franchise has received a tiny fraction of the attention its modern counterpart has received since its introduction. Even an early 2010s attempt at a 2D revival of Sonic the Hedgehog 4, featured modern Sonic's character design and moveset. However, Sega is poised to change the lack of emphasis on the classic side. Alright, skip around a little bit. Getting the game back together. The road to Sonic Superstars began during the COVID-19 lockdown. Sonic Team Creative Officer Takashi Iizuka received a message from Naoto Oshima, co-creator of Sonic the Hedgehog and current president of Japanese development company Arzest. Oshima, who had worked for Sega from 1987 to 1999 and created the OG character designs for both Sonic and Eggman, wanted to have a call with Izuki. But this wasn't a business pitch or some kind of meeting request. Instead, it was an invitation to do what many of us did during the lockdown. Oshima said, "Hey, Izuki, we should get on Zoom and have a drinking party." And we did it, and we started drinking and chatting and had conversation of, hey, we want to bring the classic Sonic game. And in that drinking party, Oshima said, I really, really want to get involved. Let's get together and make this happen. And that's how it got kicked off. Why not Sonic Mania 2? After 2017, Sonic Mania proved to be a massive success for the franchise. Many assumed a sequel developed in conjunction with Christian Whitehead, Pagoda West Games, and headcanon was all but inevitable. Unfortunately, it never happened. Headcanon continued working with the Sonic brand through 2022's Sonic Origin and its 2023 Sonic Update Origins Plus, while Whitehead founded his own studio, Evening Star, alongside fellow Sonic Mania developers in 2018. The past June, Evening Star announced its first game, titled Penny's Big Breakaway, coming in early 2024. In 2021, reports from a gaming insider named Zippo surfaced that the internal plans to create a true successor to Sonic Mania had been scrapped due to differences between Sonic Mania's external developers and Sega. While not directly confirming that particular report, Sonic Team Creative Officer Takashi Iizuka confirms that he had talks with Whitehead following the release of Mania. Okay, with both Iizuka and Oshima seemingly satisfied with the collaborative arrangement, the two were able to focus wholly on the primary objective of creating a game not only for fans but for the most beloved 2D Sonic games, but also a game for an entirely new generation of players. See how this Mario Wonders does. I need to pre-order that too. Alright, thrill of the feel. Sonic Superstars aims to give players an experience loyal to those initial classic Sonic entries on the Genesis, while incorporating myriad advancements gaming has experienced in the decades since. The modernized 3D visuals may bring back memories of much maligned Sonic the Hedgehog 4, but if you were among the many who were disenchanted by the poorly received attempt at bringing the series back to its 2D roots, you can rest easy. According to Iizuka, Sonic 4, which was developed primarily by Sonic Advance Studio, Dimps was more focused on giving players a 2D modern Sonic game, complete with gameplay tenets that branch from that branch of the franchise. In contrast, Sonic Superstars is more about replicating the traditional classic Sonic experience and utilizing modern technology of today. Sonic 4's physics were perhaps the chief complaint players had, which is perhaps why so many fans of the franchise were taken aback when a new 2D game featuring 3D visuals was announced. But Iizuka says getting the feel of speeding through the zones was a top priority. So 3D graphics with still 2D layout. In the zones, my hands-on time with Sonic Superstars begins like everyone else who had the opportunity to play the game, choosing my character. Just like the development team behind the game feels like a reunion of the early days, so too does the character roster. Players can choose from Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, each with their own abilities. Sonic can use the drop dash that debuted in Sonic Mania and carried forward into Origins, while Tails can fly and swim, Knuckles can climb and glide, and Amy can use her hammer to attack enemies and double jump. Nice. After choosing Sonic for the first few acts, I'm off into the world of Sonic Superstars. I'm met with the cutscene of Eggman hiring another familiar face to do his bidding, Fang the Hunter, previously known as Knack the Weasel and Fang the Sniper, from games like Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic the Fighters. Once again, join forces with Dr. Eggman, this time to capture the giant animal inhabitants of North Star Island to turn into a strong mechanized army. After the transition occurs and alarm sounds and the screen lights up to show our heroes soaring past on Tails' iconic airplane, the Tornado. And exploration is crucial in these stages, and perhaps that was the most frustrating about my hands-on time with Sonic Superstars. I had time to play through most stages only once. I can't help but wonder what other secrets, discoveries, and paths await on repeated playthroughs. Nice. Alright, last paragraph. This page, yeah, they're going all out with the 3D graphics. I must say, I think I like the pixels better, but Act 2 of this opening zone transitioned to the setting from daytime to dusk and implemented boosted curves that help with navigating the branching paths. However, after Act 1's boss battle, which was essentially just a chase sequence involving a giant fish robot, Act 2's boss battle is a proper fight against Eggman and a walker with boxing gloves. I decided that this is a perfect opportunity to put the avatar power to the test and send Sonic's clones at him in full force. Much to my delight, this takes him out, but in my excitement to use the power, I neglect to predict it was a multiple phase fight, and Eggman abandons the walker and flies towards Sonic with spikes that spin and a wave of electricity. This form looks intimidating, but nothing a well-timed jump can handle. Just like that, I'm ready to move on to the next zone. Okay, Blue Emerald Avatar clones your character's speed across the screen to defeat enemies. Green Emerald Ivy vines grow up from where your character stands to help you reach new areas. You can even direct where they grow. Okay, sounding like it's turning into Mega Man here. Cyan Emerald Water. Flowing water becomes traversable as your characters can even climb up waterfalls. Red Emerald Bullet. Your characters can shoot like a cannonball, and you can see hidden objects and platforms in the level while the power is active. And Yellow Emerald Slow. Everything around your character slows down temporarily. White Emerald Extra. Your character gains a unique special attack: Sonic Homing Attack, Tails Tornado Spin, Knuckles Punch, Amy Hammer Throw, and Complete Collection Super. Your character turns invincible and faster with rings depleting over time. Yep. One of the biggest additions to the core Sonic the Hedgehog gameplay comes in the form of Emerald powers. These powers grant Sonic and friends new abilities based on the Chaos Emeralds they collect over the course of their adventure. Though these powers let you pull off amazing feats, they are specifically not required to complete the game, and only specifically not required to complete the game, and only serve as optional power-ups that operate on a cooldown once you get the specified Chaos Emerald. Check out the full list of Emerald powers below. Cool. Okay, sightseeing. Following my time getting to know Sonic Superstars through the opening zone, I used the rest of my hands-on hours to see what other locales this game has to offer. Speed Jungle Zone Act 1 offers vines, both to grind on and to send you flying upwards. and alongside a mosquito robot boss fight that fires harpoons that stick to the ground so you can run up and attack. During Act 1, I even grabbed the red Chaos Emerald, which adds bullet to my arsenal of emerald powers, and that lets you blast quickly in one direction, and at first it doesn't feel as important as Avatar, but I'm sure I'll find a use for it in the future. Now this level looks sweet. You got the graphic bits decomposing, whatever. Eggman smashes the ground, and you need to avoid his projectiles as you fall. From there, you climb up floating blocks until you reach the top of the damage the doctor. And this repeats with each ascent becoming trickier. Finally, I put an end to the battle, save the animals that he captured, and when it's a stage transition to the next zone. The boss battles of Sonic Superstars are among my favorites I've encountered in the series alongside Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Speaking with Azuki, there may be a reason why they feel familiar in that way. We thought about the boss fights like Sonic 3 with a mech sub-boss after Act 1 and Eggman boss fight after Act 2. He says, I wrote boss fight specifications for Sonic 3, drawing on that experience to work with Arvest staff on the design. This does look cool. This does look cool with the purple shading. Right, yeah. Two cool, two real cool looking zones right there. Yeah, I mean, I might be tripping. This does look real good though. An unfamiliar face. Before going to the next zone, I take on Episode Amy, a character-specific stage in Lagoon City Zone. This fruit-themed stage lets you use Amy's hammers to blast through huge fruit and fruit-based robots, including a grape robot and a watermelon with a gun. Near the end of the stage, I find an armored character who looks lost. Amy offers to help this creature, and the rest of the stage becomes an escort mission of sorts, with Amy carrying him and unable to attack. Cool. I guess that's the guy, maybe. All right, last paragraph. For a long-time Sonic fans, it may feel like a pipe dream to say the brand will once again be as strong as it was in the 90s or early 2000s. But Sonic Superstars hopes to kick in the door with an emphatic statement. Not only was Sonic Mania not a fluke, but it was just the start of a full-on revitalization of the classic branch of the series. When you combine that with the continued success of the live-action and animated series, and the ongoing comics, and the promising modern Sonic foundation laid by Sonic Frontiers, even by Sonic standards, the future can't get here fast enough. Come on, hurry up. I'm tapping my foot. I'm Sonic. The musical with millions of endings. The story behind the songs of Stray Guys, the role-playing musical. Alright. For composer Austin Wintory, Stray Guys started with a rejected pitch. 5 years ago, when he was invited to a pre-GDC meeting to pitch game ideas to an unnamed friend, Wintory had one that really excited him, a musical game. Not just a game with musical numbers distributed throughout, but where the player where the player has control over the music itself. Wintory's friend was less than enthusiastic. He had said it graciously, but in no uncertain terms. I hate that idea. I want nothing to do with that, Wintory recalls. He smiles as he tells the story, finding humor in the irony that this rejected pitch eventually became the game I'm currently being interviewed about. I'm currently interviewing him about. While his unnamed friend wasn't interested, he did point Wintory towards Liam Essler, a developer with a similar ambition for finding new ways to create choice-based narrative games. And at this point, Wintory literally sprinted across town to meet with Essler before the flight back to Australia. After chatting about their love for musicals, specifically the musical episode of Up, of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the partnership between Rentry and Essler's Summerfall Studios was born. The game would eventually create Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, and it follows Grace, played by veteran video game performer Laura Bailey, a woman who must prove her innocence in a murder case using the newly gained powers of a muse, which compels people near her to express themselves in the form of song. The world is a modern take on Greek mythology, in many classic gods, now known as idols, appearing, including Apollo, Persephone, and Athena. Gameplay is a twist on the choice-based role-playing genre, and also choosing dialogue options during conversations. Players pick lyrics during musical numbers, altering the story and the music simultaneously. Managing a branching story is hard enough, but putting in a musical element also requires a baffling amount of effort and coordination. While Rentry doesn't say exactly what turned this friend off from helping with the game, he also, with every other Stray Gods team member I spoke to, can't help but to bring up the game's mind-boggling scope. It's a daunting project, especially for an indie studio's debut game, and raises the question I'm dying to get the answer to. How did they figure out how to write a musical with millions of endings? Sounds crazy. Music beyond measure. Wintry is Stray Gods' composer and music director, working closely with the narrative team and crew of songwriters to assemble the songs and score. But while Rentry has written music for huge games such as Journey and Assassin's Creed Syndicate, there's never been a game with a scale quite like Stray Gods. A song that only ever has 3 options at a time might end up with quite literally thousands of permutations. Wintry says, in the case of the finale of the game, literally tens of millions. Did they use any AI? Numbers get this big because it's not as simple as choosing red, blue, and green options. In many instances, choices you can make earlier in the song and sometimes earlier in the plot come back to change the responses you currently face. Being nice to a character twice in a row is different than being nice then mean, or vice versa. Each of these sections gets its own lyrics and, in many cases, largely altered backing tracks. Here's another way of looking at the numbers. In one of the earliest songs, Grace is deciding how to proceed. She can side with her best friend Freddy, then mischievous idol Pan, or choose to go it alone. While the song only has 3 verses, 3 choruses, 2 pre-choruses, and a bridge, the number of decisions creates 38 distinct sections of music that must be written and recorded. That's at least 4 times the amount of effort, assuming you don't consider the extra planning needed to coordinate the path. And this is just for an early song. As the story proceeds, the number of variables in each encounter only increases. Crazy scope. All right, last 2 paragraphs. Nothing was on purpose. It's clearly a joke. It's evident that a lot of effort was put into every part of this game, and there's no implication that the project was completed by accident. And yet it's indicative of how many meandering and how frantic the creative process can feel. Even when you've got some of the most decorated professionals in the gaming industry in a room together, years later, Stray Gods has done it, and its release date is upon us. And it remains to be seen how the game will be received and whether the risk will pay off. But I got an answer to my biggest question. How did they know how to write a musical with millions of endings? The answer is simple at first. They didn't. What inspires me is what they wrote. It always. No. What inspires me is that they wrote it anyways. There you go. Land the plane. All right. And Super Mario Brothers Wonder coming to life. Need to pre-order this. Fans of the classic side-scrolling previews. We are in the previews. Fans of the classic side-scrolling Mario action have long awaited for a fundamentally new entry. And that dry spell ends this October. On the heels of Mario's success as a Hollywood blockbuster, Super Mario Bros. Wonder seems to be doubling down on making Mario and his friends more approachable and fun. And the situations he encounters more surprising and bizarre than ever. We just need that song. Peaches, peaches, peaches. Peaches, I love you, my peaches. I forget how it goes, but you know, peaches, peaches, peaches. Wonder features a gorgeous art style, reveling in the fun-loving and humorous personality of the Mario franchise, while remaining a true 2D game in a more rounded and three-dimensional quality. It is infused into each of the on-screen characters and helping each to pop on the screen. And animations focus on incidental body motions and facial expressions far more than ever. Mario bubbles with excitement as he snags a power-up or his hat from within a pipe as he zips inside. From cheerful jumps to slides along new rails, the characters emote far more clearly than any prior game. New power-ups are abundant, but many seem tied to a specific pickup called the Wonder Flower, whose effects differ depending on the level and the circumstance. One Wonder Flower adds a psychedelic twist to the surrounding stage, making the environment shifts sometimes drastically around Mario, and another turns him into a giant spiked ball, complete with mustache and pronounced nose, that rolls through the stage, smashing through everything he encounters. A separate power-up turns Mario into a bulky elephant version of himself, though it's unclear what he can do with that long tusk and sizable waistband expansion. Wonder follows in the footsteps of the new Super Mario Bros. Games by including 4-player multiplayer. Even before launch, we already know Daisy and Yoshi will join Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad as playable characters. The new look, bright and beautiful, with pronounced variety from one level to the next. In one, we see Mario leap into the heavy rainfall, an overhead cloud produces and swim up into its top. In another, he bounces and careens between the herd of ball-shaped purple hippos. At one point, Princess Peach emerges into the foreground section of the level while the other playable characters are still moving around the background plane. At another point, Peach and Mario navigate a lengthy gap by holding out hats that act as parachutes to slow their descent. It's clear we're meant to take the game's title at face value, as it aims to instill a sense of joy and wonder in the small moments and places that make up the game. There's every reason to suspect a memorable and amusing adventure from Mario and his pals, and our early glimpse suggests the quality level we've come to expect from the series. If it turns out the way we all hope, then Nintendo will have another benchmark 2023 game to celebrate alongside the earlier success of the Zelda franchise, and this one is just in time for the holidays with the family. This time for the holidays, playing by my doggone self. Payday 3, evolution, not reinvention. In the profitable but dangerous career of bank heisting, you never truly pull off the one last job. The narrative of Payday 2 concluded with the gang finally getting enough money to claim retirement. But surprise, they're getting pulled back in for a whole new set of heists. After the bank accounts are inexplicably and mysteriously emptied, they're forced to put their masks back on for a couple hundred more times. In the game, you get its hooks into you. On a core level, Payday 3 continues what was successful about the first two games. You and 3 friends join to pull off bank heists, and heavily inspired by films like Heat, the heist can go awry and you must figure out how to get out of the situation alive and with your money. Many of Payday 3's updates are small but positive improvements to that formula. There are far more customization options for things like masks and guns. Payday 3 is not a radical new approach to what made the first two games successful. Payday already has a dedicated, enthusiastic community, and Starbreeze recognizes this. The development team refers to it as an evolution, not a reinvention, and playing the game confirms that it's probably the right approach. Battle Shapers. Interesting locale. Battle Shapers tosses a medley of seemingly disparate franchises and styles, from Mega Man to Overwatch to Hades, into a giant blender, forming a promising amalgamation of ideas. The upcoming roguelite shooter comes from Metric Empire, a small team headed by ex-Ubisoft veterans. Speaking to the team members, they describe Battle Shapers as a single-player shooter built upon three pillars: the fast-paced gunplay of Doom, the sci-fi look and boss ability robbing of Mega Man, and the roguelike progression and storytelling of Hades. You control Ada, an adaptive cyborg known as a Shaper, who awakens from a long hibernation to find the futuristic city of Elysium has been overtaken by corruption caused by three robotic overlords ruled by a dastardly artificial intelligence. It's up to her to take them down by turning their own powers against them. Last paragraph. Battle Shapers launches in Steam Early Access later this year, with Metric Empire building and tweaking the experience over the next 9 months or more. Based on what I've played, Metric Empire has a promising title on its hands, and I'm curious to see how it shapes up as player feedback begins pouring in. And it's going to be on PC, slated for PC, release 2023, early access. Alright, Mortal Kombat 1. The Mortal Kombat series tends to get carried away with the storylines when your most iconic mechanic is your roster of characters. Dying in the most gruesome ways imaginable, the writers need to find creative ways to bring them back to life. In 2011, Mortal Kombat, also known as Mortal Kombat 9, followed up the apocalyptic events in 2006's Mortal Kombat Armageddon by rebooting the franchise and retelling the events of the first three games, but more importantly, it brought the series back to its 2D roots. This change resulted in the series' return to prominence within the fighting genre, and alongside 2008's Street Fighter 4 from Capcom helped usher in a renaissance for 2D fighting games. Mortal Kombat received two direct sequels in 2015 and 2019, but the narrative again got supremely out of hand, and another apocalypse occurred, wiping out all of history. Following the events of Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang attains godhood and creates a new era timeline, hoping to do a better job of maintaining peace, paving the way for the next reboot in the series, Mortal Kombat 1. While it's technically only the second defined reboot in the narrative, series co-creator and Mortal Kombat 1 director Ed Boon views it as the fourth major arc in the MK series. With this one, Mortal Kombat 12, in a sense, we thought, okay, let's really start it over to the point where let's call it Mortal Kombat 1. Boone says it's kind of like our fourth new story to tell. The story revolves around the denizens of Liu Kang's creation, awakening to a new universe he's painted with warmth and peace. However, even as the stage is set for a new world without bloodshed, the characters of MK are incapable of maintaining such an existence, and bloody war breaks out again. The narrative seems framed around Liu Kang trying to preserve that peace, but I have a feeling it won't be through peaceful means. I recently got my hands on a playable build, and while I didn't get much additional insight into the story. I did play several fights as the 4 available characters, each character on offer, Sub-Zero, Liu Kang, Katana, and Kenshi, feels familiar while introducing new elements. Sub-Zero can create multiple ice clones to freeze overly ambitious opponents, while Liu Kang's moves are more flame-based, thanks to his recent ascension to the role of Fire God. Kenshi retains his telekinesis and swordplay, but his spirit clone allows you to control both characters simultaneously. Katana is the fastest and most acrobatic of the 4 playable characters. One big addition is the cameo characters serving as secondary characters at your side, summoned by pressing the right shoulder button alongside other commands to pull off different moves. I had just 3 cameo characters to choose from in this preview build: Sonya Blade, Kano, and Jax, but I also see the potential from both a mechanical and fan service perspective. We're going to be bringing back some really obscure cameo characters that you haven't seen in a long time that might be impossible to do as main fighters, but their appearance and the usefulness that they have in the fighting mechanic is going to be huge, Boone says. I'm really enthused to see the mix of story roster characters. Those are the main fighters, and the cameo characters are kind of like the nostalgia and novelty, old memories of MK brought into the mix. Sonya and Kano appear as their OG Mortal Kombat game versions, while Jax in his Mortal Kombat 2 form. They take part in throws, fatal blows. I loved watching the play between the fighter and the cameo character as they delivered a tag team beatdown on my opponent. Cameo characters may not be fully featured fighters, but they get plenty of spotlight. They can even execute fatalities. The long time cameo characters may not be fully featured fighters, but they get plenty of spotlight. They can even execute fatalities. The longtime Mortal Kombat fan in me adored seeing the retro versions of these characters return with their classic kills. Kano rips the still beating heart out of a dazed fighter's chest. Sonya's deadly kiss returns, and Jax's ridiculous growing fatality is here with all its glory. The classic fatalities are great to see again, but even pulling from the small pool of available characters in the build I played, MK1 has some of the most ridiculous finishing moves in the series has ever featured. Ever since MK9 in 2011, the franchise has consistently contended with the best games in the genre, and after getting hands on MK1 this fall, can't come soon enough. Cool. Totes, or 2AT. Life's pretty good. 2AT is a new episodic 3D adventure game from Uvula, led by director Kiri Takahashi, the creator of Katamari Damacy. It features the same whimsical zaniness, but instead of rolling around through the world, you play as a teenager stuck in the permanent T-pose. That T-pose is the same pose you'll likely see a video game character stuck in. The one where the legs stop animating and the arms are stuck straight out 90 degrees from their body. To a T. 2AT is a rifling off of that, except here it is intentional. If the reveal trailer is any indication, Teen isn't overly phased by this unique T-pose posture. Sure, they need the help of their mother and dog to do things like brush their teeth, but they're still living their life to the fullest in this small coastal town. They say you can explore the town with Teen and his mom and dog, contend with bullies at school, and discover new abilities granted to them by this by this extraordinary posture. Team's ultimate goal is uncovering more about the mysterious lineage and why they permanently live in a T-pose. Uvula is developing to a T in collaboration with Able Gamers, a charity organization creating opportunities to enable play in order to combat social isolation, foster inclusive communities, and improve the quality of life for people with disabilities. And I'm excited to see how To a T discusses disabilities and how disabled people feel about the treatment they might receive in the world because of them. There's no word on when to expect To a T, but it's launching on Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, including Xbox Game Pass. Me as a person with disabilities, I can appreciate that. Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, searching in the land of the dead. The biggest surprise at Annapurna Interactive June showcase was the reveal of its first in-house developed game, Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth. As the name suggests, it's set between the first Blade Runners and the sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Like its cinematic predecessors, Labyrinth takes place in a dystopian LA, occurring after the blackout at the event where the electromagnetic pulse knocks power out in LA for 10 days and destroys many electronic records, adding talents to the work of Blade Runners. Never have I watched Blade Runner. There's no word on when Labyrinth will be released, but Annapurna says it's coming to consoles and PC. Lushful Photo Sim. Lushful Photo Sim was the most beautiful game revealed during June's showcase. Its debut trailer showcases real world locations like Mount Everest, Kyoto, coastal waters, and more. And at first, I legit wasn't sure if using real shots of these areas or in-game footage. It turns out each environment is developed in an engine built from the ground up using Unreal Engine 5. And as the name suggests, Lushful Photography Sim is a first-person photography simulator. You travel to different natural wonders of the world to capture them using a DSLR camera, which features all the settings and specifications of a professional photographer might use. This includes auto and manual focus, flash, exposure, contrast, white balance, aperture, burst shot, and many other effects that give you complete control over what you capture. There's no word on when to expect Lushful Photo Sim, but they say it's coming to PC and consoles, although it isn't ready to clarify which ones. Prince of Persia: The Last Crown. My hands-on demo begins with protagonist Sargon, a member of the Royal Guard, is tracking down the missing Persian prince, and after his fellow protectors split up to search separate areas, Sargon finds himself inside an ancient city carved out of stone, full of reanimated skeletons and other mythological creatures. You have various combat abilities, including a dash, bow, spinning chakram, and blades to slice through the foes on the ground or the midair. The Lost Crown regularly presents scenarios with many ops on the screen, and requiring graceful executing combat on the fly, and overcoming these challenges while with interspersed platforming segments is thrilling. The Last Crown's fluid movements and combat shine in the fight against the Citadel's Guardian, but unfortunately my preview session ends before I best the beast. My next attempt has to wait for a later date, as I'm looking forward to it. Gonna be on Xbox X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Persona 5 Tactica. The Phantom Thieves are back at it again. and again and again. This time in Persona 5 Tactica, a new tactical spin-off of Persona, and by association Persona 5 Royal, first revealed during Xbox Game Showcase in June. We got another look during the Nintendo Direct later this month. It says sometime after the events of Persona 5, the Phantom Thieves have somehow arrived in a mysterious and unfamiliar world, something like 18th century France. Those vibes stem primarily from a new character named Arena, who is the leader of the Rebel Corps. I could be wrong though, and I'm hoping I am. Fortunately, Tactica hits PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC later this year, so I didn't have much too longer to find out. Right. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. In 2021, Hot Wheels Unleashed gave players a garage of iconic Mattel vehicles and a highly enjoyable racing experience. Seasoned racing studio Milestone SRL earned the respect of the genre's fans with its first outing, and it hopes to recapture the checkered flag with its follow-up, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. Everything I played and saw of Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged has the potential to please those who enjoyed speeding around in the first game. By bridging various improvements, enhancements, and new features, Milestone shows it learned a lot from launching and supporting the first game. It may release in a historically busy time but if you're racing or Hot Wheels fan, you'd be wise to keep your eyes on this one. Great graphics right there. Right. Super Mario RPG Remake on the Star Road again. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars was released for SNES in '96, and it was a fantastic but bizarre chapter in Mario's history. Developed by Square, who had not yet joined with Enix, in a partnership with Nintendo, the game thrust a platforming plumber into a genre that only employed jumping if you selected it from the menu during a fight. By most metrics, Mario, with its focus on action and lack of story, was a bad fit for an RPG, but it absolutely worked and delivered a thrilling adventure with the timed button pressing, combat systems that would become a staple of its spiritual successors like Paper Mario and the Mario and Luigi games, as well as plenty of other RPGs. Last paragraph. The game is being completely remade with contemporary, colorful, truly 3D visuals, but gameplay footage shows that mechanically sticking to the original. The camera still sits at an isometric perspective in movement and combat, but appears to play out in the same way that it did in 1996. Memorable moments from the OG game, however, appear to receive the proper cutscene treatment, and optimistically, and without yet having had a chance to go hands-on, it seems to be exactly what I and other Super Mario RPG fans want from the remake. Visual improvements with no radical change to the gameplay and combat. I'm excited to see a new generation of Mario fans get to meet Geno and Mallow, you mean Kirby, learn that sometimes Bowser can be a good guy, and see what it's like to have Peach on your team instead of just saving her. Peaches, 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 I'm in love with you, peaches. WarioWare, move it. WarioWare, shake it off. WarioWare, get it together may not have been the strongest start of the franchise on Switch, but the greedy villain is getting another stab at it with WarioWare Move It. Channeling the motion-based shenanigans of WarioWare smooth moves on Wii. Move It packs over 200 mini games where you'll use the Joy-Cons to shake, rattle, and roll alone or with friends. And as the name implies, rapid-fire micro games encourage players to get their bodies moving. An ice skating game has players pushing their arms back and forth to pick up speed, while another challenge has players freeing themselves from being tied up by wiggling themselves loose. One Super Mario 64 inspired game has players swaying their bodies side to side to steer Mario on a sliding obstacle course. Micro games seem to put every part of your body to work, and Longer play sessions will likely provide a workout and make you look silly in your living room. 2 players can work together in a local co-op, requiring an additional pair of Joy-Cons. By synchronizing their movements, party mode hosts up to 4 players in a board game style competition. WarioWare Move It offers an active return to form after the more character focused action of get it together, and hopefully shaking a leg adds to the series' chaos. Detective Pikachu returns. Sure, Sherlock Holmes. 5 years after the first Detective Pikachu, everybody's favorite coffee-loving electric mouse is back for more. And first announced at 2019's press conference, Detective Pikachu Returns received its first proper trailer during the June Nintendo Direct, showing off new Pokemon, returning characters, and the series' signature goofy antics. If you're worried about playing the sequel without playing the original, don't. Since the 3DS eShop shut down, the first Detective Pikachu is relatively inaccessible. Existing marketing material about its sequel makes little to no reference to the plot of the original, so it's probably fine to play Returns without prior knowledge. And it's also a game geared towards kids, so there will likely be tools to fill in newcomers. Grab your Joy-Cons and some Java when this game hits stores in October. And it's coming out on Switch. Wildcard football. Fans of the NFL have had minimal choices when it comes to their licensed football games. And since 2004, EA Sports' annualized Madden NFL series has been the exclusive franchise for the NFL, its teams, stadiums, and players. The recently announced Wildcard Football from Saber Interactive, part of the Playgrounds franchise, hopes to smash through the established line to give players a fresh take on 7-on-7 arcade-facing take starring their favorite players. Wildcard Football doesn't possess the NFL license, but rather the NFLPA license. This means the teams and stadiums of the National Football League aren't present, but many of its biggest stars are. The in-game teams are centered around the quarterbacks, with Team Mahomes, Team Burrow, and a squad built around the game's cover star, Team Kaepernick. If you'd rather create your own team, you can enter Dream Squad mode, customize your roster, playbook, and uniforms, and advance through challenges to unlock rewards. With post-launch content plans and exciting card-based mechanic, Wildcard Football has a lot of potential for those who grew up with games like NFL Blitz and Street. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the game again to see if I can move the chains. Nice. Eternights combines genres that don't typically overlap, action and dating sim, but the unexpected combination is working for me, even with some underwhelming presentation. The fighting borrows from stylish action games in friendship development, and calendar progression seems to borrow from Persona. With time, you can develop romantic relationships with the characters you meet along the adventure, and Eternights is trying to do many different things in one game, which is dangerous for any unproven developer, but our first impressions are positive. Rah Room. In 2008, Chris Bergen, who later co-founded Gaily Games and now works as its CEO, bought the domain of rahboom.com. He tells me he's a domain collector and liked how Rah Boom sounded phonetically. He bought the website with plans to do something using the 3 words one day. Today, that site redirects you to a Steam store page for a bright, colorful, futuristic 4-player co-op beat-em-up called Rah Boom. I like the 4-player co-ops. I thoroughly enjoyed what I played of Rah Boom and look forward to exploring its themes, characters, and combos deeper when the full release hits PC sometime in the hopefully not overrun by AI robots future. Penny's Breakaway. Penny's Big Breakaway had a fun reveal with Nintendo's stacked June Direct delivering something new and nostalgic in the 3D platforming genre. Platforming remains a robust genre today, especially in the independent development space, but 3D platformers inspired by games like Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie are much rarer. Penny's Big Breakaway feels right at home with those games and others thanks to its unique platforming mechanic based on Penny's powerful yo-yo, and a beautiful and unique art style that borrows its color palette from 1990s from the 90s. Fortunately, we don't have to wait too much longer to hear from the rest of that score because Penny's Big Breakaway hits PlayStation and Xbox consoles early, Switch, and PC sometime in early 2024. Alright, Wizard with a Gun, combining a dark magic aesthetic with a subtle Old West theme. Wizard with a Gun tasks you and maybe some friends with surviving in a world that appears to be crumbling. The twin stick action will be familiar to anyone who's played in the genre, and it plays well, but the hook is surviving in the face of randomly generated biomes with your guns and your friends. Haunty, as the first 5 letters of the title promise, in Haunty, you are a ghost that haunts various items in an abstract environment. Ghost Bike is a new biking game from the studios behind Nine Hog series. Players control a streetwise kid from Free Hub City on a mission to revive the last of the Ghost Bikes. Star Ocean, the second story Star Ocean, the second story is back, this time with the gorgeous HD 2D remake. You control either Claude or Rena as you travel on a wide-spanning galactic adventure to recruit allies, fight using a unique combat system, and power up with various skills and plenty of gear. Baldur's Gate 3, Lorien's long-awaited Dungeons & Dragons game, continues to wow at every opportunity. Whether introducing a new villain played by Jason Isaacs or touting the game's enormous 170 hours of cinematics, it's a big game that's been long in arriving, but we have every reason to be hopeful. Its capability to be the landmark RPG, whether you play on PC starting August 3rd or wait for PS5 on September 6th. Already in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, previously buried in Nintendo's past exclusively on Nintendo 3DS, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, rest in peace, no longer. The portable sequel to GameCube's classic is being visually enhanced for release on the Switch. Change your strobes, switch on your dark lights, and fire up the Poltergeist 5000. Mario will need to be saved when the game launches sometime next year. Metaphor Refantazio, from the team that brought you Persona 3, 4, 5, Metaphor Fantazios is in Atlas's latest RPG, previously known as Project Re Fantasy. The game combines a medieval aesthetic with clear influence from Persona and Shin Megami Tensei series, complete with turn-based combat, a system for ranking up your bond with characters, and flashy menu design. Be ready to face your fears and take back tomorrow when the game comes out next year. Questmaster, think you can build a better Zelda game? Questmaster gives players the tools to do just that. With the presentation modeled after A Link to the Past, you construct a 16-bit dungeons filled with traps, enemies, and puzzles that you can share online for others to explore. In turn, you can play dozens of player-generated dungeons alone or in local co-op. Mouse. Similar to Cuphead, Mouse looks like an early era of animation, specifically the 1930s, for its aesthetic inspiration. In the game, which is a first-person shooter, you are Private Detective John Marston in a corrupt black and white Noir city. You must cut through the corruption with the Tommy gun in your hand on an oversized Sig in your mouth. Did I mention you're a mouse? Rekka. In Rekka, you control a young witch trained by the mythical Baba Yaga, who travels in a unique mobile home, a cottage atop a giant chicken body. Scarlet Deer Inn. The impressive hook of Atu Games' Scarlet Deer Inn is that its characters are animated frame by physically embroidering them with the needle and thread. Wild. Untitled Princess Peach game. Over the years, Princess Peach has become much more than a damsel in distress. But since 2005 Super Princess Peach, she hasn't had much time in the spotlight. In her next solo adventure, she once again takes center stage using magical streamer-like powers to defeat ops and solve puzzles in a theater-themed adventure. We know very little, not even the name, but look forward to seeing Peach blossom on her own. Cool. And the reviews. Pikmin 4 got a 9. Pikmin has always held a strange spot in Nintendo's library, and its creation is credited to Mario and Zelda's dad, Shigeru Miyamoto, which means Nintendo holds it in high esteem, but it's never quite reached the cultural ubiquity of his other works. Maybe it's unfair to compare the adorable strategy game about dragging the corpses of defeated foes to your spaceship to the iconic plumber and the hero of time, but Pikmin might be the one that moves the series closer to those legacies. It represents a high point for Pikmin, thanks in large part to Otachi, the helpful dog that carries you and all your Pikmin on his back. Okay, when it comes to iterating on the standard Pikmin gameplay established by the first release, Pikmin 4 is the smoothest, best controlling, best looking version, and all the additions are worthwhile and fun to play. The variety of tasks which you can tackle in the order of your choice prevents you from doing the same thing for too long. I enjoyed saving survivors and expanding my home base roster. Pikmin may never rise to the top of Nintendo's heap, and it's probably unfair to expect it ever could, but the latest Pikmin is the best effort yet. Dave the Diver got an 8.75. Like a beautiful and unusual fish that has suddenly risen to the surface, Dave the Diver is an unexpected surprise, juggling two core systems that work in tandem. It's a game that excels as both an exploration experience and as a management sim, and does so in ways that are intuitive and easy to pick up. However, the real triumph is a focus on the novelty at every turn, with the near constant supply of sudden twists and activities and ways to engage the game, resulting in a joyful and approachable adventure that is hard to put down. Park Beyond got a 6.5. Promising and unconventional approach to roller coaster construction as players design the theme park of their dreams. Limbic Entertainment's Park Beyond is yet another business building simulator that attempts blending unlimited creativity with fiscal responsibility. A familiar pitch with some quirky set dressing. You'll create your own custom coasters, plop down, drag and drop shops, and hire staff to create a successful venture that's profitable and exciting, but most importantly, profitable. Okay, Dragon, sweet art. That art is popping. All right, Aliens Dark Descent got an 8. An unsettling stillness permeated the station. Buildings were scrambled on the inside, rooms dotted with bloody streaks and furniture upturned. Guttural sounds echoed from Ebony Nest. Pounding steps grew louder the longer my Marine stayed still. While not a survival horror title, Aliens Dark Descent masterfully bottles the franchise's menacing ambiance. It comes packaged as a solid squad management XCOM light, puffing a new terrifying style. But while it respects the source material and nails its inspirations rather well. Squad coordination and battles can be a bit unruly and frustrating at times, and frustratingly unfair at times. But Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals got a 8. Oxenfree 2 doesn't shake up what its predecessors did in 2016, but it delivers more of the excellent writing and charm I expect from Night School Studio. While it's light on gameplay beyond traversal, it's done in service to the characters. After 10 hours with this cast, I want more, but I'm happy where the story ends and how many choices shaped the ending. Despite bad checkpoint team and swift rush to the conclusion after an overly long setup, the return feels earned and essential, with the message that resonates far more than Oxenfree's. With Oxenfree 2 behind me, I'm thrilled Night School Studio delivered something more special, more than 7 years away from this world. Oxenfree 2. The Legend of Heroes, Trails and Reverie. For almost 20 years, Nihon Falcom has created one of the richest ensembles of original characters, history, and politics in video games such as The Legend of Heroes. Across 3 narrative arcs and counting, the latest entry, Trails into Reverie, is a bittersweet culmination. I must potentially say goodbye to some of these characters for good after the series successfully captured my heart. Alright, they got an 8.75 on PS5, 4, Switch, and PC. Crash Team Rumble got an 8. The match was too close to call in 1990 to 1995, but I wasn't keeping track. All that stood between my team and victory was a chubby crocodile with a vacuum. I danced and jumped around him in the user's big belly and Luigi's Mansion like Hoover to bounce me around like a loose piece of cat fluff. I just needed a few moments to deposit my Wumpa fruit and victory would be ours. I had my blinders on and that was a mistake. The enemy team's Wumpa fruit meter quickly filled to 2,000 and the match was over. My team had been defeated, but I was still hungry for more of Trash Bandicoot's favorite fruit. Crash Team Rumble, like Crash Bash and Crash Team Racing Nitro fueled before it, is a hectic multiplayer take on the famously difficult 24-year-old platforming franchise. It pits 2 teams of 4 against one another in a race to see which team can collect and deposit 2,001 per fruit first. It's a simple formula, enhanced by streamlined controls that makes the delightful, bite-sized, and competitive multiplayer experience. I got an 8. Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life got a 6. Remakes and remasters are more common than ever in 2023. What's most interesting is seeing how these new versions handle the issue of completely rebuilding versus simply making modern visuals improvements. Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life is a remake of Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life that straddles the line between those 2 philosophies, fairly even, but still delivers an outdated experience in various aspects. 6. Viewfinder, 8.25. The entirety of Viewfinder, including completing its optional puzzles, only takes a few hours, but its brevity is a strength. Every level feels like it's trying out a new idea based on the course concept, making it consistently novel experience throughout. Got the Game Informer must play, 8.25. Tamagotchi, not Tamagotchi. Viewfinder, but it's Viewfinder. Mr. Run and Jump may look unassuming on the surface, but the challenges that await you will have you screaming in frustration until they have you shouting in triumph. Through the trial and error style of each difficult room, sometimes wore on me. After each success, I couldn't wait to see what hurdles I needed to clear next. Got an 8. AEW Fight Forever got a 6.25. The gameplay has a strong foundation, and when it firing on all cylinders, the action channels, the simple fun of the 90s and early 2000s. Dora Dogged, got an 8. Dora Dogme is someone who derives real pleasure and admiring beautiful paintings, Dordogny ups the ante by letting me creatively interact with his gorgeous art. Cool, got an 8. And Odd Origins, how the Famicom kickstarted Nintendo's strange ways. In 1983, came into focus. The future of games in North America looked bleak. Store shelves were crowded with poorly made games, and consumer interest waned substantially. And developers that ushered in the golden age of arcades and the first 2 generations of home consoles began to crash and burn at an alarming pace. And in no time, the once billion-dollar industry was reduced to rubble. In the summer of the same year, in Japan, gaming giant Nintendo released its first ever home console with swappable cartridges. With its striking red and gold design, the family computer, better known as the Famicom, brought arcade hits like Donkey Kong and Mario into Japanese homes, while the Famicom would go on to revitalize the North American gaming market as the VHS-inspired Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. Many of Nintendo's quirky games and accessories were forever locked in this home country. With the Famicom's 40th anniversary at hand, there has never been a better time to take a look back at the bizarre and surprisingly innovative experiments Nintendo unleashed on Japan, on Japanese players throughout the console's celebrated run. Family compatible. Alright, last page. We got some Sonic in real life. We got Sonic the Hedgehog, Somebody the Bee, Somebody the Bear, Somebody the Eagle, Somebody the Woodchuck, that guy that was on like that Sonic spinball thing, Tails the Fox, somebody else the Hedgehog, maybe Sonic the Hedgehog, somebody the Chameleon, somebody the something, that crocodile guy, Amy the Bunny maybe. Yeah, let's just go ahead and read it. Alright, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Tails Fox, Knuckles Echidna, okay, yeah, Vector Crocodile, Charmy Bee, Espio the Chameleon, Blaze the Cat, Rouge the Bat, Cream the Rabbit, Styx the Badger, Sally Acorn the Chipmunk, Mighty the Armadillo, Ray the Flying Squirrel, Bean the Woodpecker, Fang the Jerboa, 16 Bark, Polar Bear, Jet the Hawk, and Wave the Swallow. Alright, family compatible. With the rental ban in full effect and piracy levels dipping, Japan's general gaming public was feeling the sting of video game pricing. Nintendo, hearing the grumbles of its audience, researched ways of producing cheaper option to its colorful cartridges, entered the Famicom disk system, a floppy disk add-on both plugged into the top of the Famicom and sat below it. Though introducing an expensive accessory, one that can cost more than the console itself, to promote cheaper games might seem counterintuitive, Nintendo did just that in 1986. Similar to the floppy disk at the time, the games for the Famicom disk system were housed in a hard plastic shell dubbed disc cards, commonly produced in a brilliant yellow casting. The double-sided disc cards were impressive with a large Nintendo logo on the bottom. The impression, I never have seen these in my life, I don't believe. This impression allowed Nintendo to form a physical lockout it hoped would quell piracy. This wasn't the case, as many clever bootleggers produced their own case molds with the proper inlays, often springing for misspellings like Nintendo and Nintendo to trick the disk drive. Regardless of the manufacturer, disc cards were considered too fragile by most players and poorly designed, which many prone to errors due to dust buildup. Though games for the disc system were cheaper, the true appeal was the ability to download new titles in endlessly reusable disc cards via one of the 10,000 Famicom disc writer kiosks around at toy game and hobby shops across Japan. The process cost a paltry 5,000 yen, 100 yen extra for an instruction sheet, or roughly a sixth the price of purchasing new cartridge game titles. Not only could players download new games, but they could use each's stored dedicated disc fax machine to submit high scores directly to Nintendo for various tournaments. With player data in hand, Nintendo awarded tournament prizes ranging from Famicom branded stationery to gold punch-out cartridges, predating Mike Tyson's $50,000 deal to lend his likeness to the series. 50,000. That is hardly anything to today's prices. Nintendo's hardware team was hard at work developing. Yeah, like interesting thing. Mike Tyson recently said he's never played Punch-Out. Blows the mind. Blows your mind. Like Mike Tyson loud. Blows the mind. Nintendo's hardware team was hard at work developing a different kind of add-on, one that would only work with the disc system. 1986, 7's Famicom 3D system, unlike the well-known glasses-free 3D of the 3DS, the 3D system used shutter glasses. Man, I've never heard of this either. The 3D system used shutter glasses and alternate frame sequencing to create an illusion of depth. While the effect worked, the system was a substantial failure, with only 6 games ever produced. That's worse than a Virtual Boy. The moment notable was Famicom's Grand Prix 2, a hot rally considered by many to be the first Mario racing game and precursors to the Mario Kart series. Oh man, okay, hot rally. We'll make sure to look that up. With Nintendo pushing all its newest first-party games to the disc system to boost sales, the peripheral soon became the best way to play era-defining hits such as The Legend of Zelda, Castlevania, Metroid, as well as Japan-only cult favorites like the mysterious Marasume Castle and the Famicom Detective series. Despite their longer load times and flimsy housing, many consider disc card games a step above their cartridge counterparts, as the disc system allowed for save features and much richer audio experience. Though Nintendo would eventually return the cartridges with the Super Famicom, the disc system was still a respectable success with 4.4 million years sold in its 4 years on the market. Famicommerce. In North America, many think of the Dreamcast as the first home console with online connectivity, but in Japan, every single Nintendo home console from Famicom to Switch had some form of internet connectivity. It all started in 1988 with the release of the infamous Famicom modem, another clunky add-on brimming with potential that struggled to find a long-term audience. The idea of the Famicom modem came not from a desire to let players connect and play games together, but rather from something more dull, the stock market. A Famicom flourished financial service company. All right, yeah, we go into the last paragraph, but if you want to read it yourself, here we go. All right, it's easy to look back on the Famicom and focus solely on its iconic games, but looking deeper into the hardware and accessories to give it personality help bring its influence and legacy into perspective. Like today, the Nintendo of the 1980s was willing to aim its resources towards innovative and silly concepts, striving to find the next niche in the gaming market. It stumbled from time to time, but there's no doubt that even its failures brought a sense of wonder and joy to thousands of players along the way. I hope I didn't skip this whole page. I think I skipped this whole page. But yeah, you want to read it on your own, here it goes. Yeah, skip that whole page. Basic keyboard, famicom, basic, family computer, keyboard in Japan. Okay, there goes that 3D thing. I never knew about that. Modem that we're talking about. Interesting read right here. This is very interesting. I gotta look up that Mario Kart like thing. Grand Prix 3 Hot Rally. We'll definitely look that up right now. Zelda on Epona. No, not Zelda. Alright, but I'm out of here though. But be on the lookout for my next Game Informer read. Should be anywhere from two to 6 weeks or something like that. But might even start reading some board game magazines or whatnot. Let me know if you want to see that. But anyway, Oyo Games, like, comment, subscribe. And we're gonna do a regular roll piece. Yeah.